Call this meeting to order, our County Commissioners for Wednesday, August 23rd, 2017. And stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so doesn't look like there's any public comment. We have two sets of minutes here to approve, sent for August 14th and August 9th. Any additions or corrections?
As submitted.
I'll second the motion.
So move the second set of minutes as submitted. So we vote all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Get my kitchen supplies out of your way.
Any updates of any kind? Don't look like we have a COS here either. We have this from the, Ann just brought it, the trustees report. It needs a signature. Does anybody want to go through it or make a motion to go ahead and sign it?
I haven't reviewed it yet. I would like to just table it till Monday, unless there's a deadline that we need to hit it today. After the budgets have been approved. Yeah, I'd like to request just a delay till Monday.
Pass this back to Ann. I've got the two sets of claims here. This is approved claims for the amount of $101,253.33.
I'll make a motion to approve claims as quoted.
Second.
Moved to second to pay claims in the amount of $101,253.33. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Nothing here for approved claims in amount of $1,657.
Move to approve as submitted.
I'll second.
Moved and second to pay claims in the amount of $1,657. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Have you and Michelle are gonna be here to help on this budget, they probably know we're ready this soon.
We have have two other pieces of mail that came to the commissioner's email. One is a request from DIS. There's a warranty extension available for our server for 1 year of $498, for 2 years of $996. So. Something we have to have, I think in the overall scheme of things, based on how much we paid for the servers, the 2-year extension is pretty reasonable.
I would make the motion. Go for the 2-year extension of services.
I'll second.
Move to second, go with the 2-year extension services, EIS. Any more discussion? Vote all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Just have to have a signature on it. Doesn't look like it. Probably just Doug that probably signed it off, I imagine.
We also have an email here. I talked to Mike about this morning. I understand, Franklin, you had already talked to Mike Myers about this. This is something that should come to the full commission in a open public meeting. This is the issue of addressing the antenna for the TV stations. We can do a increased antenna for, it looks like, $22,000. And Mike Myers needs our approval, so does Charlie, so that they can go ahead and work together to get this done for our citizens in the TV district.
Is there a motion to that effect?
I will move that we follow through and authorize Mike to work with Charlie on the antenna issue for the TV district.
I'll second the motion.
Then move to second, have Mike work with Charlie on the update on the TV district. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
I'll let Mike and Charlie both know via email after the meeting.
Which one of these options are we going with?
My motion was unspecific. I would like to leave it up to Charlie and Mike to work out the details.
We got one that comes to 15,500 and another one that comes to 22,000.
One is for, it looks like an upgrade of 4 channels, the other for 6. What I would like to do is find out if one of those options could also solidify the channels we already have for more steady service. If you guys would like, I'd be happy to just keep you in the loop as far as what Charlie says. And then
Yeah.
if it's anything more than the maximum of 22, then we can readdress,
Okay.
if that's good with you
Yeah, there has
guys.
to be a concrete pad put in there for this, there's gonna be a 11-foot dish that goes up there.
Well, we don't know that yet. We're going to work with Charlie, get his advice on what the best way to move forward is. We don't have specs yet. And again, if you're just gonna work on this on your own, that's an affront to open meeting laws, and I'm gonna call foul on it.
Is it that bad? You're there making all kinds of faces.
Yeah, no, I'm sore today.
Well, these chairs are not comfortable.
And they're not comfortable,
Why don't you sit up here in these chairs?
Well, these ones, those ones squeak. Don't think it squeak. I'm gonna do it. I'm like, you go for it. No, I'm sore from therapy yesterday.
Is this still from your accident?
Well, kinda. About the time I was done with physical therapy, I fell downstairs.
Oh,
That's not the kind of therapy you're supposed to get.
No. I misjudged the stairs carrying laundry and I went. Oh, about done. I'm getting injections in my knees, so that's helping. Yeah, some of it's still from the accident.
oh,
Oh. The knees. And falling down the stairs didn't help them.
No.
no, that's for sure.
Never done that before and I don't ever want to do it again. I was trying to be careful and I guess I was too careful or something.
So what we discussed on yesterday, we just didn't make any motions because it wasn't agended. So we can make those motions and make them official today. We didn't get to talk about a couple of things. We can do that today.
You have anything new or go ahead on it, Debbie?
Lots. Checking with Wynn about their vehicles, because some of the, trying to balance their vehicle CIP shows a negative. Brandon clarified that the city is gonna help pay some towards one of the vehicles, which will help. But then Wynn responded this morning, said the commission's gonna help with the vehicle that crashed and with Mason's car for the differences. Well, I don't know if he's referring to part of the PILT donation left over as the help. So here, I don't know if he's understanding one thing and not really hearing the whole thing, or, so that developed this morning, just before I come down. Trying to figure that out, because I figured there was some, Brandon said, yeah, there's another 23,000 from the city, so that'll help there. And he said, now there's this other Durango, so it sounds like there's gonna be 3 vehicles we're gonna be replacing this year. The one that Mason's, the Durango that blew up during the procession, and now the other Durango, I guess, it's got a cracked head, and they're limping it along. So that's a new development.
Okay.
So those are some, that was one we're gonna have to get some more clarification on, some more communication to make sure we're all on the same page, because he's saying one thing and I'm understanding different, so. I kinda said that to Brandon, we were kinda waiting, I thought, to see what was left of the initial 50,000 from PILT for all the services for the funeral and all those services. And then they would have the second 50,000 donation to do what they want. And I said, I thought you guys were gonna use that as part of the vehicle. So, and that was his discussion with him as I was walking out the door yesterday.
So,
So I don't know if they're thinking there's additional help above and beyond that, or if that's the help the commission, they're thinking the commission's gonna help them with. So we're gonna have to clarify some things with them
okay.
to get that finished.
Is the insurance covering Mason's vehicle?
It covered part of it, but it didn't cover a lot of the equipment that was in it that was shot up. All the radios, the lights. So it covered part of the car, but insurance didn't cover the end stuff. So that was an additional almost 20-some thousand
$27,000 for all the equipment in it.
for the lights and all the stuff that was shot up that's still all with the car as part of their evidence. Because usually when they get a new car, they take it out of the old car and put it in the new one. And they didn't get to do that with Masons. So I don't know if there's some more with that. Huge bill.
Well, insurance looks at the age of things, and of course they depreciate things out. You're never gonna get all of
Well,
it.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but anything we get would help. I mean, that.
Well, and
a
we
lot
did
of that
get
equipment's
some.
probably pretty new.
Would we get 30,
We did get some, but then they replaced a vehicle, so I mean, it's gone and then some. So I mean, it's gone already.
Yeah, they got, I don't remember, I wanna say it was 34, almost 35,000.
I think so.
I'd have to go,
35,000 insurance paid,
Yeah, we already have a check for it.
okay.
that doesn't cover 3 vehicles plus all the
Well,
equipment, so that's something that's just developed since I was down here yesterday.
okay.
My inquiries and questions.
The other car blew up during the funeral, and one of the things that I've talked to Winnes about is that I would like to go ahead and help with that, if we can. Now, this was before we were looking at what we're looking at now, the cost of a deputy county attorney, the cost of the litigation fund. I don't know how we are going to pay if there are any additional costs. I don't know how we're gonna cover those, and we may be looking at not a freezing of PILT, but pretty darn close to it. So some of the things that we wanted to do out of our hearts may now be the reality of the numbers are gonna have to do the talking.
Yeah.
So,
But that's discussion.
right, I think a third vehicle, I don't think there's a way we can pay for it this year.
I don't see how, unless they can go out and get a grant. I don't know, here again, we talk about grants, I don't know how all those work, where you go to look, what's available, options, fundraiser.
My impression from the discussion I had with those guys last week was that third vehicle is basically an excess vehicle. That they're just trying to limp it along now until they get
Okay.
these 2 replacements back in. I don't know that they're looking to replace that right now. My impression was that was just a backup vehicle in case
Okay,
something happened like what happened.
okay. I know he said they're looking at getting a third vehicle, cause this has got a cracked head, they've been limping it. Cause he didn't quite understand why I was questioning about where's the money coming from. I'm like, well, you gotta have.
Because the 50 that we gave them was to replace 1 vehicle. Or the 50 that we gave them was to go into Mason's account, but
Yeah, so there was for the services, and that's where, 1 was left in PILT as to help pay for all that you guys were gonna cover, funeral services. And then the memorial fund was set up under Wynn, so he'd have authority over it.
yeah.
And so that's where there's those 2 separate accounts, and I know you guys have told them, anything left over you can use as you want. And so we're just waiting to finish claims, then to possibly transfer it. But that's why I don't know if in their head, they're seeing that as separate from all our wishes. So we have some more talking to do. This was just last minute, last night and this morning as I come down.
Let's table that until we know how much is left from the initial
Yeah.
50,000 we put aside, how much is used or left from the second 50,000. If there's anything left, we can use that and then go from there at this point.
Now, there's 23,000 in the city, that's for a vehicle, right?
That's to help with the new replacements, yeah. I think it was to help replace Mason's car. Or purchase a car, because since they are doing duties and patrols for the city. They contribute that to
But
help
is
with
that something
offset the
that's
costs.
already included in the interlocal, is already included in that? It's not anything over and above what's already included in the interlocal, right? That 23,000 is what's part of the interlocal.
So it just goes
That's
into
my
their,
understanding, right?
Yeah.
No.
so then it
So it
just
could
goes into
be
their
used on
revenue.
either,
Right.
Yeah.
either issue.
So it's just,
So it's
yeah,
just part of their
clear.
revenue, okay.
Yeah, not a solid definition other than it's for a vehicle.
right.
Help towards that, okay.
But it's not like the city's saying, we're gonna give
Here's
you
an
an additional
additional-
23 on top of what we're already giving you. That's
Right.
not it, it's just what they're already getting as part of the interlocal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is Winter or is he gone? Isn't he gone?
Yeah, Brian had said last night he's gone, and wouldn't be back till Wednesday. I'm assuming next Wednesday. He said next Wednesday.
Oh, I think he was going to Isn't he going to? No, I
Was
think
he-
that's
was
in
he someone to-
September. No, he said he was going to Fort Peck, but I think that's September or something when he was doing that.
Well, maybe, yeah, I don't know, he's talking about fishing. And that's where he usually goes. But I don't remember. I didn't know he was gone, so. I did get our our fourth quarter entitlement money sorted out. It was just sitting in the clearing fund, it hadn't been journaled into the respective funds, so that helped some of our balances a little bit. So I got that, I worked with Ms. Alyssa on that one yesterday, so that helped clear up some of the negatives that were out there. So that was a good thing. And for Nicole's, Harold suggested for the maps that the County Land Use Act fund could be used for her to print the atlases and things. So that'll help her budget a little bit.
One thing I talked to Debbie about this morning regarding the Planning Community Development GIS department is I would like to direct Nicole to put together a fee schedule. This should include her time, her equipment for making maps, for the public, for Zerker, for realtors, those groups. When they want a map, I believe they should be paying for the actual cost to put it together, to print it.
Yep.
And I think we need to, by resolution, adopt those fees, or a price structure. And if we don't get something worked out with the different emergency services, I think we also need to have a fee schedule so that they can get what they need and they know what it's gonna cost. She's got the expertise already gained, so having somebody else come in and relearn it is not an efficient use of our money. But somehow we've gotta fund that particular department, or portion of her department.
Are the fees for the realtors and everybody else gonna be the same as the fees for other departments?
I would guess no. I would leave that to Nicole, but I would personally think that government to government, county to county, we could be a little bit more lenient.
Nicole's checking on these figures, is that right? Is that what I understand?
For the,
These, on these maps and,
I don't know for
Oh,
sure.
okay.
I haven't seen her yet
She
today.
and Brandon have been working together. I clarified that with her last week. Just isn't a resolution yet. Depending on what that ends up being will determine, does she need a fee structure for fire, EMTs, law enforcement, that kind of thing. But I think it doesn't change the fact that we should have a fee schedule for the public.
Mhm. And that would make sense, which would help right now in her budget, the GIS line item we had, expenses being charged to the land use when she does that versus, and I've already talked with Doug, we kind of have an idea, a separate line to charge, so same with their office. Revenue can be kept separate, fees for things that they charge that both use, same way with the expense. So it keeps it separate and they know they gotta share, it's not all mine, it's not all yours. And that way they can keep track of. Cause like Doug said, they could use that too for certain things here and there, they didn't know they could. But I think that some of that changes that, until you know, they pop up and ask the question, you don't know,
Right.
so. And Harold indirectly, of course, made me think that as long as there's a project appropriate for that, you could charge it too. So my whole thing of transferring in and this and that was a stupid question, but
Yeah.
he had a nice way of telling me, here's how you do it. That's all it took. So that'll help that budget. I just haven't got all that busy yesterday and then left, and so working on it.
Yeah.
Talked with Mike on his budget, especially the CIP and things, and he said he could cut 5% from his general fund line items, which is, we talked about 10,000-ish. And then we talked about projects in the CIP, and he doesn't foresee any, he's got most of all the jail stuff done, stuff over here, so he doesn't foresee or anticipate too many expenditures from that this year. Knock on wood. But as we all know, things happen, and who knows what winter will bring. So he said you could probably drop that down a little bit too, because he just put in what last year's actuals were. So there's room to play. So that'll help that one, because right now it shows he's going to spend more than he's got revenue and stuff. So, but that'll change.
The $30,000 from,
That'll
Public
have to work
safety.
on. I remember conversations, but I don't recall concrete
There wasn't-
instructions.
there wasn't a contract, which there shouldn't need
No,
to be one.
no.
Just to bring you up to speed, Mike, and we talked a little bit about this. When Nick Korthals was in the public safety department, he was the detention center administrator. And by the way, he did a superb job. He and Mike were doing a bunch of work together. One of those projects is still pending, and that is putting a wall up between, I think it's A and B, or C
Yeah.
and D at this point. He's already done one between A pod. The reason for that was to switch one of the pods from men to women so that we could actually house more women. We only had a pod that could house 6. By switching it, we could house more women, and there was an increase of women. It was a good business move on Nick's part. After that was done, Mike started working a lot of hours in the detention center, public safety. Nick came to the commission with Mike and said that he would like to support us hiring Eric, an assistant, and he was willing to pay $30,000 for that because of the hours spent in the detention center and public safety. This year, Mike and Eric were able to fix the inline grinder. It saved us a ton of money because it was done in-house. They were able to install the cadaver cooler, saved us a ton of money because it was in-house. They were able to build 2 rooms over there, renovate, recarpet, all the different things that they did, fix the locks. Mike and Eric take care of the generators, the elevators, the fire suppression, all in the general fund. They do far more than $30,000 of work a year. This year, public safety has a, we haven't required that money. This year, public safety has reserves higher than I think anybody else pretty much. And I think this would be the year to actually pay that to the general fund. Start it this year, we've given a grace period. If we don't, we probably are gonna be looking at some cutbacks for the work that can be done in public safety. So I would like your support in just upholding that agreement from 2-3 years ago. And it's just $30,000, which is, according to what we have from Debbie, a fraction of what's been provided in services.
So since the detention center's on its own, then they should be paying for all this maintenance, because that was the agreement that was made, right? Was that they were gonna pay,
Help pay for their time.
okay.
For right now, it's all being charged to general fund. And I don't know conveniently how well Wynn remembers that.
Do we have, we don't have a signed agreement, we have that in minutes or something somewhere?
Somewhere, minutes, boy, yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to find those. It was addressed with Nick when he was here last year because public safety was unstable. We opted not to do it last year, which was fine. General fund was more healthy. In fact, we took all the extra mills from general fund and gave them to public safety last year. This year, one of the reasons that we're having such a hard time with general fund is we didn't save anything for the rainy day. Rainy day being the county attorney's extra funds he needs this year for the trial. I think we'd be fine without that. But we have solidified the public safety fund. We don't have a solid general fund. So this year, for sure, that needs to be made right.
I think that was the agreement that was made, and they should be adhering to that agreement, I think. The only problem is that if they're gonna,
30,000 wouldn't hardly touch their budget and their reserves at this point. Of course, that they are pretty healthy. We got them up to, was gonna print a new one and I didn't get it done. Last I had messed with it, they were at 9%. That's 186,000. 30,000 won't take it down much.
yeah, I would think we would have to require that of them.
So I will move that we just uphold the agreement between public safety and the general fund to pay $30,000 annually for the maintenance services to continue.
I'll second the motion.
I move in second to continue the agreement with 30,000 public safety. Any more discussion? No more discussion, I'll move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
If that's the case with his reserves, can he, that money for that third vehicle come out of that fund?
I think he could. He could. He won't like it, but he could.
And then what's he gonna be down to?
Well, depends on how much they can purchase for and what they get. I've seen them go anywhere from 22,000 to 35,000 on a vehicle, depending on what they get. Especially who they buy it from and what deal they can get. Everyone's always trying to get a good deal, so it's hard to know. But that would take them down another 30, so put them down to,
Do we have an accurate account of just exactly how much maintenance did put in over there?
Yeah, we have these that we got from Debbie about 2 weeks ago.
Mike estimates about half of their time is spent over there.
Okay.
He also has 2 line items within his budget that is for equipment, for upkeep of the detention center, of the public safety offices, and that's also in the general fund. You'll see here 135,015, 85, 16, $103,000 last year. That was all money spent from the general fund for public safety.
You've got
And-
one for, which is the operating supplies.
And this is a good agreement. I think this is something that Broadwater County should be bragging about, is our partnerships from fund to fund, department to department. It's just, we have to do baby steps to make it equitable. $30,000 is a drop in the bucket as compared to these prices if public safety had to hire their own maintenance staff.
Yeah.
I think it's a good deal. I have no problem sharing resources. I think it's more efficient. We have to make it at least a little bit more equitable. The other thing that needs to be realized is last year we took mills from general fund and put them into public safety. Again, about 3 mills, depleting the general fund, which is, again, why we're having a hard time this year. When Department of Revenue this year said, okay, Broadwater County, we're gonna decrease your mills by 5, those all came out of the general fund. We've infilled a little bit by decimating the cash reserves of the secondary floating departments, which would be fare, ambulance, search and rescue, senior citizen meals, those funds. We did not subtract any mills whatsoever from public safety. We kept them untouched with mills. So this is also the right thing to do, but it probably is the extent that we can do.
You know, the thing is, if you look at these actuals in here, they're averaging $6,000 over that 30,000 every year anyway.
Yeah. While we're waiting too, I just want to share this with you, Mike. I'll give you a copy. This is something that we all need to be looking at. And again, I graphed, Dave, if you want one, come on up and we can get you one. It's just a graph and I can get it for you afterwards. But what we have to look at is, where are we going? What can we expect in the future? So the blue line is personnel costs. Those increased this year by 13%, last year by 5.8, the year before by 5.8, the year before that by 11.9. That's far more than the COLA increase we offered. The orange line, orange graph, is operations. That has stayed fairly consistent. It has increased annually, but not by a whole lot. The revenue increases in 15 were half of what the personnel increases were. In 16 were just double what the personnel increases were, 8.3%. Last year was again down to half. This year, the increase in revenue is 2%, the increase in personnel is 13%. Increase in operations looks like it might be about 2 to 3%. So when you look at next year, the total expenses are going to exceed revenue by quite a bit. There isn't a lot more that we can do to help public safety. With PILT, which is a finite pot of money, mills, those have to be shared with the other departments, especially the secondary departments that we depleted this year. So that's something that we just need to look at, be aware of. This is wins to decide how to address it. But I want you guys to just see that and be aware of the trend.
So I guess, not debating, but what's the, what is the percentage of increases in calls in relation to the percentage of increase in personnel?
That I don't know, and that would be something for WIN, but every single department is more busy today than they were a year ago. Yes, that's true for public safety, but it's also true for extension that has grown 4-H by leaps and bounds. It's also true of Doug's office that got a variety of unfunded mandates handed to them from the state this year. It's also true of district court that will no longer have a 50-50 cost share with the state for witness fees. It's also true of accounting. It's true of every single department in the county. There is an increase in expectations. There is not a coinciding increase in revenue. So everybody's got to look at that. efficiencies have to be increased. We need to be looking at where we can actually do more with less and alternative sources of revenue. And the state is not going to allow us to grow beyond the percentage unless it's new development. Family Dollar will have a positive hit on us next year. I don't know what else is coming, but they're cutting 5 mills last year hurt.
When would those mills be restored? Is it a 2-year phase before they be restored, or would it be, is it a yearly deal?
There's no expectation that they will ever be restored.
Probably just the new formula that they're doing.
Exactly.
It'll be from here on out, that's the way it's gonna be.
Yeah. 15-10-420 actually, it only allows growth to a certain percentage of non-new growth. The formula in the past was in our favor. It was done wrong by Department of Admin. And in our favor, meaning all counties' favor. This year with that correction, it was a hard hit for us.
Was that because of reappraisal?
What's that?
Was that because of reappraisal?
No.
No.
No, the law says that you can carry forward your mills. The formula from Department of Revenue from 2001 had that people had to input what they were carrying forward for cash.
Right.
So mills seldom went down, if ever. We didn't have it happen very often at all, and it was minuscule. When they changed that and you could, now the formula says carry forward your mills, it actually held everybody to that percent. So counties like us ended up losing a chunk. We lost 5.11 mills. So it's just a change. It was an error that Department of Admin made when the law was changed, the big bill, and it just didn't get caught until this year.
Of course, they don't have to pay for their mistake.
Right. Well, it's like Department of Revenue, when they misappraise somebody, they say, go to the county.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Debbie,
our area.
Were you doing the city's sheet on the revenue mills?
Yeah, I helped Diana with it last year.
Was anybody done it this year?
I've got it done, I just haven't done anything with it. And they did go down a little bit too from what they had last year. But I also know last year too, they said they could do X amount and they did a little bit less than that. So I need to get with her and figure out if they're gonna do that this year, do the max. And add last year's, do what they didn't.
Their discussions on helping with the county attorney, that revenue thing is important too. That's why I was wondering if it had been done.
Yeah, I got it done, I just haven't gotten anywhere with it yet.
Thank you.
Too many little things keep falling in the cracks. I gotta get that caught up.
So what's next? Got a slew of stuff.
Did you folks see the article in the Billings Gazette where they're running a mill levy down there for the county attorney? By any
No.
chance?
Oh,
I'd just like to bring that to your attention and then maybe some phone calls down, because they're trying to build up, do a mill levy for the county attorney down there. Similar problems to what's here.
Would you share that with Corey?
Okay.
Because that would be something he would have to lead. And then certainly if he could, and I would think it'd be pretty easy to ask all the electeds to support that.
Well, somebody should be talking to people behind the scenes down there to find out really what the strategy is.
Yeah, I agree with you.
go do some looking and see. What else do we have?
How about the revenues? We discussed increasing the revenue expectations for a variety of funds, or excuse me, object codes within the general fund. I would like to move that we increase those. The septic tank permits, the clerk and recorder fees, election fees, attorney interlocal, board inspection fees, health inspection fees, subdivision reviews, Board of Health, county nurse, and civil fees to the actuals achieved last year.
Is that your motion?
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'd second that.
Need a second to expand the revenue fees as stated. Any more discussion? No more discussion, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
And I'm gonna give you this, so that you can see which ones,
Okay,
for sure. They're the ones with just the scribble right here.
oh, okay, all righty.
And I got all but one of them.
That's right.
And then-
And then the 30,000 of Julie's grant,
Yeah, and that doesn't show on here either,
okay.
but I did get it done and just didn't waste paper. I don't have to.
The other is I would like to address the county attorney's requests. And I'd like to move that we authorize the deputy county attorney for the duration of the State versus Lloyd Barris trial, plus 30 days to help with the sentencing at that point. Or plus 30 days with the option for reevaluation. How's that?
Wasn't that already done in one
I
of
think
these?
so.
It was done through the sentencing. The reason I'm changing the motion
Oh, okay,
is because if sentencing lasts 280 days, which is the state average, that is an exceptional amount of time for a position we cannot afford. At that point, there would be little, the trial's over, we're just waiting for the district court's process. And that would be able to let us save that money, again, for a position we just can't afford at this point. If there were a mill levy, like in Billings, then certainly that would fund that position. Without that, I just don't see how we're going to, again, be on
So
the trial.
30 days after verdict?
Correct, yep. And Dave, we had a meeting yesterday on the budget, we discussed all these things, and we just couldn't make any motions or votes because it wasn't noticed. We just happened to have an agended meeting for the ambulance. It is part of the consent agenda that we continue working on the budget. That's why we're doing the votes today.
Now, is that amendment or is that a new motion?
I made it a new motion.
Okay.
I'll second the motion to limit the term of the assistant county attorney.
The motion made second to limit the term of the deputy county attorney to 30 days after verdict. More discussion? No more discussion, go to vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
And that deputy, of course, is still for civil and misdemeanors. But I didn't need to include that since the decision was already made. The other motion is, I will move that we reduce authorization for the secretarial position to the 8 hours a week for staff we already have on payroll. And that would be specifically the part-time clerk we have in the Justice of the Peace Office. And that's just a reduction of hours. If the county attorney wants to work with JP and have a contract, they can certainly do that, which would make this just for the, again, the duration of the trial.
And that's gonna, we're giving her 16 hours a week dedicated to him.
Do you wanna do that in our motion, or do you want to leave that to Corey and Kirk to work out?
I think we could leave that to Corey and Kirk, because I think that that's gonna be a floating hour thing, because if Kirk doesn't have things for her to do, I'm sure Corey will.
Yeah, I would feel better about that also. And I would think that they could work out something and have a contract if Kirk is indeed worried about getting her back. They could have a contract just like us.
So it would be an agreement between Kurt and Corey on how the secretary would be used, is that correct?
Correct, yep. But we are authorizing just, it's equivalent to about $5,000 in the budget, and that is for 8 hours per week.
Is that amendment or is that a new form of motion then?
No, it's a new motion.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and second that Corey and Kurt have their own agreement with the secretary. Basically, what is the other part of it? The reduction of hours to?
The motion was a
Okay.
reduced authorization for a secretary to 8 hours per week, utilizing current staff in the JP office. Did I hit that close?
That's right on.
Okay.
Yeah, brilliant. I
Well-
almost wrote that down because I really liked the way that you worded it better than the way I did.
Okay, the motion as read by Ann. And you seconded, did you, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? No more discussion, we'll do a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
So the CDs that we had planned to use, of course, we can't do that, which is too bad because that was a good plan. You can change investments, but you cannot use them to build up the cash reserves. So what we're gonna have to do is just require that everybody live within their means and balance their budgets. Again, public safety is looking fine. Still need to do some tightening, but they're not bad at all. District court, same thing, they'll have to live within their means or actually could team with county attorney and the sheriff if they do decide to pursue some alternative sources of revenue. And what I did was the same type of graph. We have been increasing the revenue for this department annually, and I'm gonna figure out what it is for this year, because I do have the, okay, perfect, that'll give me a second. So we know from conversations that we have a sound structure for funding district court. We do know that there's some unfunded mandates that will have to be dealt with. We don't know how we're going to deal with those. We have increased the revenue for that department over the last 3 years by 7%, then 7.2, and then almost 10% last year. The personnel costs, again, have been quite a bit higher than COLA, which means there's been personnel added. In 15, that was almost 25% additional in personnel costs. In fiscal year 16, it increased by another 11%. Last year, it increased by 2.8. COLA last year was just 1%, so that's almost 3 times what the COLA increased. So that is not COLA, it's personnel. This year, there's an increase of 5%. So, operations, you can kind of see those were pretty much even until fiscal year 17 last year, where it almost exploded by 2.5 times what it had been previously, from 10.7 thousand in fiscal year 16 to 25.3 thousand last year, and an expected 25,000 this year. So we put together a revolving fund for the juries. Most of the costs for district court are reimbursed except for personnel, except for ancillary jury items, donuts, coffee, that kind of thing falls on the county. The witness fees, those will not be shared with the state anymore. There's gonna have to be some kind of a financial proposal brought forward from this department with an idea of where the extra money can come from. Perhaps a joint agreement, I don't know, but that trend also is worrisome. One thing that was said yesterday is, well, it's not the department head's responsibilities to manage their budget and balance their budgets. Yes, it is. If the department head is going to increase their operations, increase their personnel costs, increase their expenses, it is their responsibility, if they're gonna fall outside of their